Now that we have the game set up, let's talk about how we introduce the game to the kids. On your quick start guide, there's a quick little paragraph on how I usually introduce the game to the kids. But you can do it any way that fits you. But I usually tell them that they are bootstrapping entrepreneurs. They're running an airplane transportation company that creates and sells paper airplanes. I also say that there's many roles in running a business. So we talk about different roles of running a business. There is a company role sheet. So on there we have an accountant, a salesperson, a purchaser, a shopper, an engineer, and designer. So the accountant, we talk about what does an accountant do, and sometimes they know, sometimes they don't. So we talk about that they have to budget. They need the team's input to budget. They just don't get to create the budget by themselves. They have that $200 to start, so they need to budget, and we'll talk about what they need to budget for during the game. Then the salesperson. What does a salesperson do? What kind of skills do they need? Same with the accountant. We talk about what kind of skills do they need. They need to be able to write legibly, because when you're doing your budget, if no one can write it, and then you don't know what those financial numbers are. You also need to know, basic math. So who's good at math, we say, and then they pick somebody in their team that might want to be the accountant. Then the salesperson. What is important for a salesperson? Communication. Sometimes they know that negotiation is an important thing. Customer service, those kind of things. So they talk about that. Purchasers. So the purchaser is the person who goes and gets the raw materials. So maybe it's somebody that is interested in looking at what are the deals. Like we have big paper and little paper. And then somebody who also knows a little bit about math, because you have to calculate that, right? Then we have the shopper. The shopper, of course, there's always people who want to just be the shopper. So the shopper is the person who goes to the office supply store and buys the office supplies. And then there's the engineer and the designer. So paper airplanes, there's a little bit of engineering to that to make them fly best on the runway. The goal is actually to have them fly straight and hit the X. And there's a number of points that you get based on how close it is to the X and how far it goes. And so we tell the kids, this is how we're going to judge you. So you want to make sure you do the best airplane. So the engineer and the designer, they are the ones that actually design and engineer the airplane, and then they might do test runs. So we allow them to do test runs on that, when they're first building them, just to see. Now it's really interesting for me when I watch them do the test runs, because a lot of times they'll hit the X on the test run and they're like, yeah, I got it. And then they go and they have somebody else fly it when they're actually selling the airplane to the customer, and it goes all over. It doesn't even go close. So that's a really interesting dynamic that you'll notice. And then the entire team actually has to decorate the airplane or design it based on themes. And on the company role sheet, there's actually different themes. So there's international, social media, eco day, sports day, TGIF. So it depends on how many rounds you play, how many of those you use, or if there's something specific for your school or your group that you want to do, you can change the themes to fit you. Okay. So the first thing the kids have to do is they have to come up with a company name within 3 minutes. So what I do is each person, I kind of give them the background of what they're doing, and we talk about all of this stuff, and then we say, okay, you need to come up with a company name, 3 minutes. And then once they come up with those names, we write them on either a whiteboard or flip chart, whatever you have in your room. And then we'll be keeping track of the sales and stuff at the end. But then that way they have their company names right up there on the board, and you can see what each of the company names are that the kids come up with. So that's how you set up the game.